cutter green or lavender green? Oh, she's got it there.
At the time, I would have been 42, and so I was living in Halliburton. I had bought a house, I had a 13-year-old daughter, I had a dog, lots of really good friends, and a great job. Really felt like I'd found my niche, and things were going really well. I was in the shower one day and I noticed like a lump kind of near my armpit. And I thought, and it was kind of tender, and I thought, oh, that's really odd. So then I thought, I better go get it checked out, like go to my doctor and ask about it. He actually didn't think that there was anything wrong. Like, he was like, oh no, I doubt it. You're so young, and you say it's tender, and that's unusual, and all this sort of stuff. Oh, we'll send you anyway, right? So I went. If they notice something funny when they do a mammogram, then that you stay, and then they do the next level of investigation. Like, they don't send you home. So I went right from mammogram to an ultrasound, and after the ultrasound they were still like, I don't know. So they did a biopsy right then and there. And then I waited for 2 weeks for the results. And I remember I was at work, I got a phone call from my doctor. He phoned me, it was a Monday, to tell me that it was indeed breast cancer, and he was shocked and sorry, and yeah, so. And then I remember kind of almost like shutting down. I had to force myself to like get up and get in the car. I remember telling myself, going, you gotta keep moving because you might not make it home. Somebody's gonna find you here the next day, just like blanked out in your office. So yeah, so I remember that, and I remember getting myself to the car, but I have no memory of telling my daughter or how all that went down. It was really weird. Yeah, I know I did talk to her about it. She says she remembers I told her over dinner. Like, I took her out, we went out for dinner. I said, oh, I don't feel like cooking today. And we went out and I told her, which I look back and go, that's terrible. That's just terrible. But, oh well, it was what it was, so. It felt really unreal. Even when I got the phone call telling me that, they diagnosed that I have breast cancer, it's almost like, like I kind of spaced out, not connected to anything sort of feeling. It was really odd. I couldn't kind of reconcile this diagnosis with how I felt fine. I felt totally fine. I didn't feel sick. Like I had energy, whatever. And it just didn't make sense to me at all. Yeah. So, I'm scared, right? Really scared, not knowing what was going to happen. They've already been turned, so we're done. I actually didn't really have a whole bunch of options when I was diagnosed because of the kind of diagnosis that I had. I had what was known as, or called, triple negative, meaning that there was no hormone involvement in my breast cancer. So the only thing that they really knew how to do in that situation was to, slash poison burn, basically, which is surgery, chemo, and radiation. So it was an aggressive approach, and if I wanted to survive this, that's what I had to do. It was definitely hard on me. I had six months of chemo every 3 weeks. I had to have this little port that went into my vein, and they put this very thin tube, and it goes right to my heart, so that you can administer the medication straight to my bloodstream. I was having to use an injection that I think it was $6,000 per shot. I had to put it into my stomach so that my bones would produce more white blood cells, so that chemo wouldn't kill me. I mean, it really affected me physically you know, the nausea and the sickness and all that kind of stuff. But also psychologically, I really had trouble with it, with this whole idea of like, you're basically putting pesticides in my body, right? So I was like, ugh. My daughter hated it. She hated what it did to me. Like the chemicals affect you. She wanted me to stop chemo. I remember her crying and yelling, and at one point she let it out good because I told her she had to. So she even swore and how much she hated cancer and called it all sorts of bad names and stuff like that, which I'm like, good, just that's right. It's not this, you know, pretty pink thing, right, that you see out there all the time and rah, rah, rah and survive. And it's pretty awful. It stinks. And how it impacts everything in your life is, there's nothing positive about it. Like even the whole bright siding kind of idea that, oh, well, I learned something, or it was like a gift in the end. And I'm just like, no, it's not. We can learn these things about ourselves without having to go through this.
There you go. Large Americano Misto.
I don't remember any kind of internal dialogue about survival. But obviously that's what I wanted to do, right? Because I did everything I possibly could to make sure that I was going to get better. Started juicing, you know, and growing vegetables again, and running them through the juicer and drinking my kale and my spinach and all that kind of stuff, and learning about the body, and, you know, went to yoga classes and did like a 13-week meditation program and meditated every day for an hour, and walks, and ate really good food. And the biggest motivator for me, of course, was my daughter, who was 13 years old at the time. And I was a sole parent and sole provider, so I was all she had. So that was a pretty big motivator. I think I've gained a kind of irreverence. You know, I see the humor and the lightness in things more than I did before. And I'm able to joke about things that other people might not think are so funny. But I just sort of feel like I have that. I feel like I got to that point where, you know, a lot of women, they say once they hit 50 or 55, they sort of become these more, grow into who they are and just say what they want and not worry about what other people think so much. Well, I think that happened a lot earlier for me because of cancer. And yeah, that sense of humor and that sense of irreverence, it started actually while I was in treatment, and that helped me through, and it helps me now. That and the mindfulness practice. I mean, I was very committed to it while I was in treatment and for the year after, and I still practice. But I find that now it's just part of my everyday, so I can just be walking down the street and just notice stuff that I never really noticed before. Little things. What's really important, right? The little things. So what are you doing this weekend?
Tomorrow I'm going to go to my friend's house.
Are you guys going to finish off your costumes for the Comic-Con?
She's gonna help me. I have to buy a headband so I can glue my ears.
Your ears.
It.
What's she going as?
It's called Aku Aku.
Is that the...